The Roblox Obby communities. There are many Obby communities on Roblox, such as Flood Escape 2, with some unique outliers such as Juke Styles of Hell and the Tiered Obby community. These outlying communities stand out due to the sheer difficulty of the obbies that have been completed, with an obby such as Sharp Mint being completed by Monsters a Block a few months ago in the Tiered Obby community, which up to this day stands out as the hardest obby to ever be completed on Roblox in many people's opinions. While the Juke Styles of Hell game is an obby game on Roblox that contains over 300 towers, with the entire game being ran by the community, with every single tower being created by members of said community. Hence it is such an active community, with the Tiered Obby community creating short-lasting obbies that are usually much more difficult in gameplay compared to any towers ever made. Think of it as if you had the option to choose between a long but easy path to success, or a very short but much more difficult path to success. It is entirely people's decision to choose which way they wish to go in order to improve their skills for these unfathomably difficult skill-based Roblox obbies. However, with these active communities often having members discussing about obby topics, a few members of these communities have created an entirely different community that stands out in its own way. The year is 2022. Obby Boy, along with a few other friends, had the usual Discord car. While in this car, however, Obby Boy had suddenly landed one of the hardest humanly possible jumps on Roblox in a matter of hours, which instantly became the hardest jump to ever be landed on Roblox, with this jump being named the 4th jump, with the name coming from a humanly impossible tiered obby called 10 jumps to tower of elongated runs. In order to land this jump, you have to first flick off a weirdly aligned ladder placed below a roof into a 2-stud gap that is only 1 stud long, afterwards having to turn your character the opposite direction in the lodge, followed by camera controlling to the perfect position in the lodge and having to precisely exit out of the lodge and get yourself stuck in another lodge by letting go off of shift lock while remaining stuck in this lodge, which is once again followed by precisely controlling your camera and timings to get stuck into the last lodge before officially landing the jump. If this already looks humanly impossible to you, then let's just say this jump is already considered below the top 20 hardest jumps to ever be landed on Roblox as of today. So 30 other jumps more difficult than this one have been landed. With this jump being landed, however, the top jumps obby community was created as Obby Boy and a few others had decided to go with the idea of creating a server for a new obby community dedicated to landing the hardest humanly possible jumps on Roblox. Along with this Discord server was also the top jumps list, which people use to keep track of the most difficult jumps ever landed on Roblox by anybody out there. Along with this list being a quick way to get the game link of any of the hardest jumps to ever be landed on Roblox. With all of that said, before we talk about what these less known jumps are and how the most difficult jumps have ever been landed on Roblox, there are 2 buttons on YouTube on your screen right now that very few viewers are willing to click. So if you enjoyed this video, I would love if you show your enjoyment by clicking the like and subscribe button on this video and leaving a comment, along with the fact I will be wearing a maid outfit at 10,000 subscribers. With the hardest jump ever landed on Roblox and the top jumps community being created, Obby Boy and a few others had begun to land more jumps in order to get them on the top 100 hardest jumps to ever be landed on Roblox list. Quickly after the creation of the community, the last jump from the 10 jumps to Tower of Elongated Runs tiered obby had been landed by Obby Boy once again, a day later. This jump was deemed to be easier than the 4th, however, and placed at number 2 on the list, despite the sheer difficulty and camera control and timing precision required to land this jump as seen on screen. It sounds easy for most people to land a jump on Roblox, even if it could be a frame-perfect jump. However, this is where the physics of Roblox come into play, as we have seen earlier and are about to see later into the video. with some jumps even requiring close to frame-perfect movement in order to be landed. And with how Roblox physics are made, doing anything frame-perfect goes beyond what we can normally think of when we hear frame-perfect. And it is easy to tell that upon attempting any of these jumps. It could take hours of practice to land one of these jumps, if not days for some, or even months for less skilled players, all for one jump to be landed. Which is why from now on, it began to take weeks for people to land new hardest jumps that would be considered top 1 on the list. Which is why Overtaker took 2 weeks to be landed by Obby Boy once again since the completion of the 10th jump of the 10 jumps to Tower Yankee runs. Overtaker was once again a new limit to the most difficult jumps ever landed on Roblox, and was also a jump from a buffed version of the Tower of the Roof's Peak, which is a horrific difficulty tower from Juke's Towers of Hell. However, it was not just Obby Boy that began to attempt to land the new hardest jumps on the entirety of Roblox after the creation of this community. A few days after the completion of Overtaker, Undertaker was officially landed by El Mayo Boy Blah, which is a jump from a buffed version of the Tower of Spiraling Fates, located in Pit of Misery in Juke's Towers of Hell. However, it was once again not considered a new hardest jump, and was placed at the number 2 spot, under Overtaker. It is beyond me how these jumps even get ranked by the members of this community. It must take absolutely insane Roblox physics mastery and skill to be able to rank these jumps properly, but we are only getting started in terms of how difficult the most difficult jumps ever landed on Roblox became. 1 week after Obby Boy landed Overtaker, he had managed to land the new hardest jump once again, with this jump being the Pinky Lodge. Just as the name says, it is a lodge-based jump that was landed by Obby Boy in May 25th of 2022. If I was forced to complete this jump for a huge reward, I would have already had a mental breakdown by now while attempting this jump, and just to think that we are still in 2022 with the difficulty of the hardest jumps ever landed on Roblox is insane. With more people, including some of the best hobbyists on Roblox, finding out about the most difficult jumps ever landed on Roblox, it took just 1 week for Eternality to be landed by Boom Sazak, which was once again another top 1 jump landed by one of the best hobbyists on Roblox at that time. However, this jump comes nowhere close to how unique the next few top hardest jumps to ever be landed on Roblox were. The barcode. Landed by Obby Boy once again, this was by far one of the most revolutionary jumps to ever be landed on Roblox, due to the fact this jump was from an obby that was back then considered a tier 25 obby, and for context, the human limit of tiered obbies is tier 18 as of now, so anything past tier 19 was thought to have humanly impossible jumps, which is why the community was quite shook at the fact somebody had managed to land a jump that was thought to be 100% humanly impossible and was never made to be landed. And even while mastering this jump, it is impossible to make it consistent in any form, as it requires you to get your character stuck in one of the parts for longer than you should be able to, which could very well be a frame perfect timing that has to do with the Roblox physics, and doing this maneuver is quite luck based as well. But with the barcode being landed, it did not stay as the top 1 hardest jump ever landed on Roblox for longer than a month. A while after the barcode was landed, the community did not want to stop there, and with that, a few of the top best jumpers along with Boom Sazak were racing to once and for all land Sora no Shinku, which even up to this day stands as the 3rd hardest jump to ever be landed on Roblox, and Boom Sazak had officially won the race by landing the Sora no Shinku jump on July 2nd of 2022, which is most likely a frame perfect precision jump that up to this day only has 3 players who have landed this jump, requiring you to perfectly squeeze your character through an almost humanly impossible gap, followed by having to squeeze yourself out in such a way that gives you a massive speed boost in order to land this jump. And at the time, little did the Obby community know, Sora no Shinku was so difficult in fact that it remained as the hardest jump ever landed on Roblox for 2 entire years, despite the community actively landing new top jumps in this time frame. There had actually been so many jumps that have been landed, in fact, that the barcode ended up falling below the top 10 hardest jumps to ever be landed on Roblox, with Sora no Shinku remaining at the top the entire time. 2 entire years later, as of February 15th of 2024, Heavenly Delusion was the jump to officially dethrone Sora no Shinku from the hardest jump ever landed on Roblox for an entire 2 years, landed by Rofinator after spending only 7 hours practicing and mastering this jump before officially landing it. This jump requires a few camera control lodges and timings with an extremely precise camera control movement maneuver and timing maneuver required to pass the last part of this jump. Heavenly Delusion remains as the most difficult jump ever landed on Roblox as of today, with Doom of Girl Supernaturalism being the second most difficult jump to ever be landed on Roblox, which was actually very recently landed, overtaking Sora no Shinku by 1 spot, with Sora no Shinku remaining as the 3rd hardest jump landed up until today. However, what if I said Heavenly Delusion is not actually the hardest jump to ever be landed on Roblox? It is currently top 1 on the list due to the fact the actual hardest jump ever landed on Roblox has not yet been tested by the list moderators of this community in order to be placed at the top 1 spot. However, it is pretty much guaranteed to gain the top 1 spot, with this mysterious jump being the ultimate destination jump. An entire 8 minutes of camera control and close to human limit precision required to complete this jump. You have to first do a precise thrust momentum jump, as if you were to normally try to jump out of this thrust, you won't get enough momentum to get stuck in the lodge. Then you are tasked to slightly rotate your camera in order to land inside of the lodge, with this first thrust jump and lodge being the easiest part of the entire jump. Once you are in a good position at the end of the lodge, you're required to drop down into the second lodge and precisely time your movements and camera control in order to move upwards in this lodge. And from now on is where this jump begins to earn its 2 top 1 spot of being the hardest jump to ever be landed on Roblox. After around 20 seconds of going upwards, you must precisely and almost perfectly control your camera and character in order to go through 4 smaller lodges, followed by once again having to lodge upwards in order to get your character perfectly stuck in the next part of this jump. Once you are stuck at the sheer end of this lodge comes the hardest part of this entire jump. Going around the cylinder and having to perfectly turn and get your character lodged in between 2 cylinders. This timing is much more difficult than it looks and will be a huge choke point. It is not over yet though, as you are required to push further and lodge upwards for 3 minutes straight in order to reach the next section of this jump, followed by dropping into the last section of this entire monstrosity of a jump, with this last drop being the second worst choke point, and often resulting in your death, as one slight mistake in your camera control results in failure. And finally, after lodging upwards for another 3 minutes, you are able to drop into the final space of this jump, and officially land the hardest jump to ever be landed on Roblox. The sheer dedication it takes for these extremely skilled obby players to land these jumps is absolutely not something anybody can do out there when it comes to video games. Hence, the list of the hardest jumps ever landed on Roblox still has less than 100 total jumps landed on it, despite the community being widely known among the obby communities of Roblox. And no, you are not able to submit an easy jump in order to make it 100 or more of the hardest jumps ever landed on Roblox, as the jump has to be difficult enough to be in the top 50 hardest jumps ever landed on Roblox in order to be put on the list. And let's just say the 50th hardest jump on the list alone is something that would take the best obby players on Roblox quite a while to land, and all of these obby players have had over a year of experience with the most difficult obbies ever completed on Roblox.